What's going on, y'all? In this video, I want to talk about why being fit and self-aware makes you steady in chaos. Okay. So what I'm talking about, man, chaos. Let me go ahead and just break it down. What's chaotic to you may not be chaotic to me, but we all deal with some level of chaos in our life. Okay. And I'm going to share with you, a scenario here, and hopefully that this resonates with you in a way. Okay. So like I said, by chaos, I could be talking about, it could be your job, car crash, your girl just left you. It could be whatever. All right. But I'm talking about my job. I have this coworker, right? And let's call her Chrissy. Okay. I won't say her name and put her out there, because she may check out this video sometime, and I don't want her to feel like I'm talking shit about her or anything. But so Chrissy, right? Chrissy has ADHD, because she'll tell you about this, that she has ADHD. Chrissy got hella anxiety. All right. And Chrissy has been at this restaurant. I've only been there 2.5 years, but she's been there for quite some time. She's been there pretty much since the place started. All right. She's got a real strong connection to the place because, you know, one of her past partners like started the restaurant. Okay. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore, but he started the restaurant. So she has a strong connection to this place as well. Right. And Chrissy, when working with her, you can feel her anxiety. Okay. You can feel that ADHD all over the place. Okay. So at times, I like to think that I'm pretty chilled out. I've been in the serving industry for quite some time, over 20 plus years. But some of the people that I work with, Chrissy, for example, they haven't really worked in the serving industry that much. This may be the only serving job that they've ever had. And it kind of shows at times. So Chrissy, at times, she's like the type of individual, and let me know if you've ever worked with somebody like this. Okay, leave me some comments and let me know. But Chrissy is the type of individual where when she gets anxious, she has to like offload her anxiety onto somebody. Okay, and I give you an example of what that may look like. Say, for example, you got a handful of plates, right? You just finished busting a table. You're about to walk to the dish pier, and somebody might say, "Hey, excuse me, can I get a sweet tea to go?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, I got you in one sec." And I'll go, depending on how busy it is, what I got going on, I'll go to the dish pit, drop off my dishes, and I'll go make that sweet tea and take it to whoever asked me, right? Chrissy is the type of individual that may have a handful of dishes, and somebody says, "Hey, can I get a sweet tea?" And she starts to kind of freak out. Hey, Bryce, can you get that sweet tea? Now look, let me be clear here. I work in a restaurant where we are a team, okay? I don't have my own section. We all share money, all right? So we're all part of this team. So at times, I will have to do things. People will ask me, "Hey, can you drop this at this table? Hey, can you do this?" We're a team. All right. We kind of cover each other. But at times with Chrissy and her energy, it can almost be excessive. Okay. So this is what I'm talking about, chaos. I'm talking about dealing with somebody else's chaos. Let me make sure my mic is on. This thing be acting goofy. I'm talking about dealing with somebody else's internal chaos. How to remain steady when you're dealing with a coworker that projects their internal chaos onto you. How do you handle that, right? I'll tell you how I handle it. First of all, let me go and kind of finish my story. Chrissy, like I said, she'll start to kind of panic if somebody asks her something, right? You can tell in her mind, it creates this sense of urgency. Like, oh, I better get this tea to this person or the restaurant's going to burn down. That's kind of the running joke that I make. Like it's kind of like this energy, like, oh, if I don't do this, fucking people, people gonna die in here. And it's like, it ain't that serious. Okay. We in here slanging breakfast. We're not curing cancer. And it doesn't need to be that urgent. Okay. And it'd be better if you learn how to kind of calm yourself and regulate yourself so that you learn how to manage yourself a bit better. But that's a whole nother tangent. I'm not here to talk about what Chrissy needs to work on. I'm talking about how I handle Chrissy and other people's stuff, which allows me to keep myself grounded. And hopefully that this resonates with you and you can take something from this. Because I know at your job, you got somebody at your job or somebody in your life that is always asking you for shit. You know what I'm saying? And like, I'm the type of person that's like, yo, you're fully capable of doing that. You know what I mean? It's almost like when I go around Chrissy sometimes, Chrissy is the type of person that I don't even like walking towards her direction sometimes because she's always going to ask me for something. Always, Bryce, would you mind? Bryce, can you do this? Bryce, would you mind dropping that? And then it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay. What I was going to say is that I understand that we're part of a team, and I may call on you at some point too. But I'm not calling on you any more than 3 times a shift, if that, because I'm fully capable to do things on my own. Okay, and this is not this is not a video about me venting or complaining about a coworker. I'm trying to paint a picture and just show how you can learn how to carry yourself amongst the chaos. All right, and what I mean is somebody else's chaos. Okay, that they may project onto you. So Chrissy, like I'm saying, she got this anxious energy, and as of late, it's been getting a little kind of tiring to me, to the point where I'm having to have this internal conversation with myself too. Like, all right, am I going to have a conversation with her? Like, am I going to have to like pull her aside and say, hey, I know we all go through our stuff, and however I need to word it, because she's the type of individual where you got to speak to her like kind of gently. You know what I mean? You don't want to like rock the boat and like she's kind of crumbling. And me and Chrissy, we're the same age. We the same age, and I tend to have grace for people that are around my same age. We wouldn't went to high school together. We wouldn't have been in the same graduating class or whatnot. But at some point in our lives, men and women, you have to be able to take responsibility and learn to manage your anxiety, learn to manage your emotional inability to be able to calm yourself. Okay. And, I've been saying in a lot of my videos lately, like why being fit and self aware, helps you to do X, Y, and Z. And I don't want to leave you hanging wondering, like, what is he talking about as far as being fit? How does fit play into this? When you're in shape, when you take care of yourself, when you go to the gym regularly and you're building your discipline and you're building like a confidence within yourself, you're building a groundedness within yourself. When you work out, you build this foundation, man. You know what I mean? It ain't just about your muscles or anything like that. It's about the relationship that you have with yourself that comes through working out, that comes through the repetitions, that comes through getting your ass in the car and driving to the gym after you just got off work and you're tired and you don't feel like doing it. There's a certain relationship that you develop with yourself when you do that over and over and over again. All right. And that relationship becomes like you're like a rock. Okay. You're solid. You know what you're capable of. You know what I mean? You become your own kind of like hero. I'm my own dude. I know what I'm capable of. Okay. And that allows me, that along with being self-aware, being emotionally intelligent, these things allow me, when they come together, they allow me to be able to kind of sit in this chaos. They allow me to kind of have a steadiness within this chaos. Like, all right, I know she's asking me for something again. I get it. She's got her stuff. She got her stuff that she need help with. And it allows me to not like, I don't like blow up. You know what I'm saying? I don't like lose my shit, but it also allows me to notice my own thoughts, notice what's triggering me, what's activating me, what's elevating me in certain moments. I heard a saying, it says, when you're elevated, you'll make elevated decisions, meaning your decision making will be all out of whack when you're not grounded, when you allow yourself to get to an elevated state. And I've worked very hard to be able to, not that I don't get elevated, but to be able to recognize it better so that I have more control over my responses to things. Okay? Think about the example I'm sharing. If you lack self-awareness, emotional intelligence, the example that I'm sharing with you about Chrissy, my coworker, might get on your damn nerves to the point where you're ready to cuss somebody out. You might lose your shit and go off and be like, chick, leave me the fuck alone. You know what I mean? It can get to that point. So it's really important, man, to like really work on that self-awareness. Okay? Really understand yourself, what makes you tick, why you tick, okay? But also learning different tools to be able to kind of bring yourself back down to zero when something triggers you. Okay. Like even during the shift, I'll be noticing like it's kind of automatic for me nowadays, but my breathing. You know, if I'm getting agitated from Chrissy or something, I'm always right on my breath. I'm always focusing on my breathing. My breathing kind of takes me out of the story that's being created in my head about why this person's annoying me. Why does this person work here if the job is so stressful? If this job is bringing you so much anxiety, why are you working here? That's where your mind wants to take you. But when I focus on my breathing, when I approach it with a level of openness and understanding that, hey, not everybody's been in the food industry for 20 plus years like me. Not everybody's game is going to be as sharp like me. I can't control this woman's anxiety, how she handles her anxiety. All I can control is me and how I respond to somebody who may not even be aware of their level of anxiety that they project onto others. What's funny about Chrissy though, she is aware of it. She's come back around and been like, she sent me text messages and be like, hey, I just want to check in and see like, you know, how was the shift with me today? You know, she's actually pulled me aside and be like, hey, yo, I've been trying to adjust my meds. You know, like I said, she deals with ADHD, right? I've been trying to adjust my meds and find the right balance. You know, so that, you know, I feel like I've been getting overwhelmed here at the job. So when you have a person that is aware of themselves and isn't scared to voice that to you, there's a certain level of grace that I have with that person. It's just like me. I work on myself too. And when people acknowledge, like, yeah, man, you seem like a guy who works on yourself, you feel good about that. You feel like somebody understands you. And that's what I try to give other people out here in the world. I understand you, Chrissy. I get it. That doesn't mean sometimes it don't get annoying. That doesn't mean that that I'm your outlet for your anxiety. Now, what's funny about this is when you take care of yourself, when you are fit, when you are self-aware, you can handle more. That's what's interesting too. Like on a psychological, subconscious level, without it even being said, Chrissy knows Bryce can handle this shit. Bryce can handle more. I've seen him do it. I see how he carry goddamn 8 plates on his hands and shit. How he speaks to these tables and never seems flustered. Bryce has a certain level of internal patience within himself. This is not to toot my own horn. I don't mean to speak like as if I'm, you know, bigging myself up. I'm speaking from a perspective of how my coworker may view me. And when they view me like that, or when somebody views you like that, like how you can take on more, you're more capable, you might get bombarded with other people's energy in that way. You might get bombarded with their anxieties, their depressions, their problems. So it's really important for you to learn how to take care of your internal world. The better you get at taking care of your internal world, the better you are at handling those moments when people project their internal world onto you. All right. I hope that made sense. All right. If you got to rewind it, go back and listen to that again. You have to work on yourself. That's why I talk about meditation. That's why I talk about being mindful, learning how to live in the present moment, not worrying about the future or the past. When you can do that, when you can be where your feet are in any given moment. For example, if I walk by Chrissy and Bryce, can you take this over here? You know, in kind of like this frantic type of state. I don't get all bent out of shape. Like, man, I remember 10 years ago when I was working with this other chick and she used to do the same thing. She used to get on my damn nerves. And I wish I would have told them. That takes you out of the present moment. I'm thinking about something that happened 10 years ago. And if I allow that to build and snowball, it will dictate how I show up in this moment right now. But I have to be aware of that. And in order to be aware of that, I have to actively and intentionally work on my relationship with my thinking. Okay, that's where the meditation comes in. That's where the mindfulness comes in. That's where acceptance comes in. And what I mean by acceptance is acceptance of who I am, of who this person is. All that stuff plays into it. But I also want to highlight the part of like where don't be anybody's doormat either. Okay, you don't let people just walk all over you. If they got anxiety issues, depression issues, okay, I get it. We all have our stuff that we deal with, but I'm not your anxiety punching bag. Okay. So when I'm saying that to say it, sometimes you might have to create boundaries for yourself. Like how I was saying earlier in the video, how there was there's a point the other day, or it was actually last week when I worked with Chrissy, and she was getting on my damn nerves on that shift. And it was getting to the point where I was like mentally tired when I left the shift. And I'm like, okay, this is getting to a point where I'm getting a little mentally drained because I'm having to like problem solve for you too. Like, you're not taking in consideration that Bryce is already in motion doing something when you ask me for help 80 times a shift, which is what it feels like. I'm already doing something. And I understand that she may not have that level of awareness. Okay. That's what I mean by accepting that too. I have to accept that this person may not possess that level of awareness. She might have some awareness about herself, how she shows up, and that's great. But when she gets frantic and gets triggered and is in that fight or flight, she may not realize how she is pouring out onto other people. So it's my responsibility, Bryce's responsibility, if that gets out of hand, that I have to have a conversation. But I have to sit down and I have to, and I went back and forth with this in my head last week, how I would approach it if I did. And I would approach it gently. And how I would approach it is I would say, Chrissy, I would ask her, Chrissy, how's our shifts been going lately? What do you think about the shifts lately? How have they been going for you? That's how I would initially word it to her. I wouldn't come in there and say, hey, I need to talk to you about something, or this has been really bothering me. I would ask her, how have the shifts been going for you? And I would let her share with me her perspective, and then let her ask me how they've been going for you, because I know that that's coming. I set up the question for her to be able to bounce it back off me so that I can respectfully say to you, hey, thanks for asking how things have been going. You know, to be honest, when we work together, at times I feel this wave of your anxiety. You know, I feel like at times you might get a little frantic and it kind of pours out onto me sometimes. You know, so I'm wondering, is there something I can do to maybe help you with that? And that's how I would kind of approach it. That's how I would lean into it. You know, if I was to set a boundary, did I follow through with, did I do this? No, I didn't do it because, you know, emotional swings, man, they come and go. And sometimes they're not as heavy as they are in that exact moment. So I didn't even need to address it, you know, and then I just worked with her again today. I only work with her a couple days out the week. So it's not like I see her every day. So I work with her like every Tuesday and Wednesday, I think it is. So, so yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, that's what I'm talking about, chaos. Chaos can come in a bunch of different ways. It can look a bunch of different ways. Like I said, your girl could have left you, the kids could be getting on your nerves, or it could just be you deal with a coworker who projects their shit onto you. That could be chaos too. But the key is to not make it your chaos. Learn how to be steady within the chaos of the world. And in order to do that, you got to work on yourself. You got to work on your self-mastery. You got to work on your emotional mastery so that things aren't knocking you off your square so easily. And if it does knock you off your square, you know how to get back on your square with a swiftness. You know how to focus on your breathing. You know how to regulate yourself and get yourself back to zero so that you're not overreacting to situations. But ultimately, I hope this video provided you with some value. If it did, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you know when I make more videos just like this. Also, man, if you want to dive deeper into this, dive deeper into self-mastery and understanding yourself, book a one-on-one coaching call with me, okay? The link is in the description. Also, make sure you check out this video right here. YouTube thinks that you'll enjoy this one as well. And I'll see y'all there. Peace.